It was unexpected to receive the invitation for Sunday dinner. For months, I had not received an invitation from my parents. Not after I turned down their request for a $50,000 loan for my younger sister Sarah's wedding abroad. I was branded selfish by my brother Tom, who reminded me of how they had paid for my education, while conveniently ignoring the fact that I had worked 3 jobs to pay for medical school, and that they had been funding his unsuccessful business endeavors. However, I was suspicious of something about my mother's determination. I became adept at anticipating hurricanes after working as an emergency surgeon for 15 years. This dinner invitation felt like watching a storm. On the horizon, clouds amass. I arrived at their suburban residence in my small Honda Civic. I had long since learned that I should not display any financial achievement in front of my family. When they had last seen my Mercedes, it had prompted a 3-hour lecture about my responsibilities to my family and how I need to share my blessings. Tom had his new Audi and Sarah's BMW parked in the driveway. Obviously, they were present. Undoubtedly, this was a family ambush. Amy. As she opened the door, Mom's smile was too radiant. Here you are at last. Everyone is standing by. Mom's finest china was used to set the dining room, which was another red flag. At the head of the table, Dad sat with a manila envelope next to his plate. On either side of him were Tom and Sarah, both sporting looks that made me think of cats who had discovered a wounded bird. Sarah grinned and said, "Well, look who decided to grace us with her presence." When I was 32, though she had never worked for more than 6 months, our younger sister had mastered the art of controlling our parents. Saving lives keeps me too busy to see my family. Disregarding her employment, I took my seat. I appreciate the invitation, Mom. What's the occasion? Parents should be able to eat dinner with their daughters. Dad inquired, but his protective hand was there. Within the manila envelope, it was Mom's famous roast chicken, an additional warning sign. She just created this in response to her desires. Dad cleared his throat after I had hardly taken 2 bites. "Emily, we have a crucial conversation to have." He opened the packet and took out several documents. "Your mom and I have been keeping up with our will, but we have contemplated our legacy." Mom went on, practicing her voice. "I want to make sure our assets are allocated properly." Tom stood up as he tried to look stoic, yet unable to conceal his grin. Sarah was ecstatic and made no effort to hide it. Dad said, "We've concluded that you don't need an inheritance because of your financial circumstances. Our savings, the house, everything will be divided between Tom and Sarah." The metal clicks against the exquisite china as I put my fork down. My financial circumstances. As though it clarified everything, Mom said, "Well, you're a doctor. You earn enough money. It is more important for your siblings." I took a peek at then Sarah, sporting a new engagement ring and fancy attire. Looks at Tom, who recently got back from his 3rd trip of the year. Both of us had always depended on our parents' generosity for complete support. "In addition," Sarah said kindly, "you abandoned the family when you declined to assist with my wedding. Family must support family." When Mom touched the will, her eyes met mine with a chilly expression I'd never seen before. "Emily, you won't smell a thing." That is the last one. There was silence in the room as they awaited my response. Tears, protests, and sometimes pleading were expected. I grinned at Tad. "All right," I answered coolly as I got to my feet. "If so, don't expect me to smell at all." "Not right now, never." "How is that meant to be understood?" "I want it," Tom said. My voice steady, I took up my purse. It precisely signifies my words. Whenever you need money, don't call me. When there is a medical emergency, don't call me. For anything, don't call me, Mom sneered. You're blowing it. Otherwise, where would they seek medical assistance? Without my recommendations or connections, they will be treated by whichever physician, at whichever hospital. Accept them to be seen by whichever professional I recommend, without my reputation supporting their costs. Their expressions lost confidence as my words took hold. The whisper, "You wouldn't," was Sarah's. "Watch me." I turned around one last time before walking to the door. "Your decision has been made? Let it be now." They were hunched over, presumably congratulating themselves on putting me in my proper place, as I drove away and could see them through the dining room window. They didn't know what was going on. There are times when the storms you don't see coming are the worst. 3 weeks following the supper, the first indication of problems showed up. Tom gave me 17 calls in a single hour. I listened to the voicemail on every call, recalling my mother's icy gaze when she said I wouldn't receive any perfume. As the head of emergency surgery at the hospital, I received the 18th call. My colleague, Dr. Peters, remarked, "Your brother Tom is in the ear, Dr. Harrison. Terrible ache in the abdomen. He is requesting to visit you in particular." "I'm not right now," I answered coolly. "All of our skilled surgeons are capable of handling it." They paused. "He's experiencing trouble making the payment arrangements." "Usually you handle that," he said. I had, of course, been over years, covertly setting up special treatment and overseeing payment schedules for my family. The number of favors I had requested and the number of threads I had pulled were unknown to them. "Not anymore. As you would any other patient, treat him. Tom needs a last-minute appendectomy. Without my help, he would have had to pay the entire $35,000. The majority of our parents' assets were locked up in their home, and their credit was horrible due to their several failed ventures." Sarah was given her turn a week later. She had visited Aspen for skiing. Another extravagant trip that she was unable to afford broke her apart once more. Calls to my phone exploded. In a voicemail, she cried, "Please, Emily. The expert here won't come see me without paying in advance. Mom and Dad are unable to assist due to Tom's medical expenditures. Although I'm your sister, I am aware of what they said over supper." I erased the correspondence. 2 weeks later, the true nightmare arrived. A heart attack struck Dad. Mom called in a panic around 3 a.m. "We need your father, Emma, please. $150,000 is what the hospital is requesting for the heart operation. Without payment arrangements, they will not proceed. He needs the best surgeon." Already I was at the healthcare facility. He was admitted, and I was informed. He was lying there hooked up to monitors, and I was outside his room, looking through the window. "The top heart surgeon," I announced over the phone. "Dr. Williams is the one who, ironically, only accepts special referrals, most of which come from me." "Emily, please." The voice of Mom broke. "We'll change the will to whatever you wish." "Anyhow." "Mom, this has nothing to do with the will. This has to do with years of ignoring me. I was treated like a family ATM for years, and everyone expected me to solve their problems. I am your daughter, the one you disinherited since I was taking care of myself well enough. He is your father." Recall that there was an overwhelming silence on the other end. Finally, Mom murmured, "There are other hospitals." It's true that there are. Furthermore, each valuable heart surgeon in this city is aware of me. They know what I do. They take my recommendations seriously. Finding someone willing to undergo a high-risk procedure is a good task, without requiring money in advance. In particular, given your present financial status. When I hung up, I saw Mom go back to Dad's bedside through the window. She gazed, older and less successful. In the corner, Sarah and Tom huddled together, finally confronting the consequences of their decisions. One of the nurses came over to me. "Doctor, your father's labs have returned, Harrison." No good. Considering all the times I had rescued, helped, and shielded them, as well as how they had returned the favor, I nodded. Loyalty combined with deceit and greed. "Thank you, Jenny. Please make sure he is given the usual care procedures." She was astonished and asked, "Not your usual premium care instructions?" "No, they decided on their own. It is now theirs to live with." The following 48 hours changed my family in ways that their priceless will could never have predicted. They hurried to get funding for Dad's surgery, and I observed from a distance. The pressure caused their flawless facade to crumble. Sarah's high-end luggage had to go. Tom got his Rolex pawned, and Mom begged for loans by calling all of the relatives. The cardiac surgeon, Dr. Williams, stopped me in the corridor. "Emily, the case of your father. Never in my experience have you turned down a family referral," I responded, amending the paperwork for another patient. "Things change. E-transferring to the county general is necessary." According to the outcome data, he trailed off in a significant way. I muttered that sometimes people must realize the real consequences of their decisions. In terms of money, but also in consequences. Mom was by herself when I found her in the hospital chapel that night. Her makeup was streaked with tears when she looked up as I walked in. A surgeon was located at County General. She spoke in a hollow voice. Although it has a lower success rate, we can afford it. Sitting next to her, I kept a professional distance. You see, Mom, I've been the family's bulwark for 15 years. Every financial catastrophe, crisis, and emergency I resolved. Not in response to your inquiry. Kindly. Not because you were grateful, but because I think that's what family does. Emily, we were unaware. You were aware, no? It's as if you didn't care. My accomplishment was not something to be celebrated. Rather, it was viewed as a resource to be exploited. How recently did someone inquire about my day? How about the lives I spare? About 70-odd I work for weeks? She was quiet. I was offered a job at the Mayo Clinic last month as head of surgery. Did you know about it? Naturally no, since during the family supper you weren't busy disinheriting me when I intended to make the announcement. Mom shook her hands. The will is subject to revision. Now it's not about the will. It's all about respect. There is more to family than merely who can give what. It's important to realize that success is a result of accountability rather than privilege. I straightened my white coat and got up. Dr. Williams is going to take Dad's case, per my instructions. Free of charge. She snapped her head. Higher. That's because I swore to preserve lives, not because of your tears or the will, and I refuse to allow my father to fall victim to the avarice of this family. Regards, Emily. I moved away as she began to grasp for me. Thank me later. There are restrictions. Initially, Sarah and Tom secure actual jobs rather than their typical schemes. You and your father go to family counseling second time. Third, you all get the ability to stand independently. Should we disagree, Dad will be promoted to County General, and you will all have to accept that decision. I observed as they signed the contract 20 minutes later. I had gotten my "the lawyer gets ready." After accepting a job as an entry-level office assistant, Sarah broke down in tears. In order to start paying his own costs, Tom decided to sell his car. Mom. Dad agreed to weekly therapy sessions. Dad's procedure went well. I visited him exclusively in my capacity as his physician during his recuperation, upholding professional boundaries they had never before considered. After 6 months, the situation had altered. In fact, Sarah found that she liked making her own money. Tom did not seek family favors when he began a small, respectable business. Mom. Dad came to view their kids as adults, not as resources or liabilities. Will. They changed it so that everything was divided equally, although it was irrelevant by that point. I had assisted them in seeing that respect, self-reliance, and support for one another determine true family wealth rather than inheritances or freebies. A new family portrait was put up on the wall of my parents' house today. Inside it, at my Mayo Clinic appointment ceremony, we're all standing together. Despite her off-the-rack attire, Sarah has a sincere smile. It's an inexpensive tie, but he is truly proud. Despite their age, Mom and Dad appear wiser. Myself. I'm dressed in white, finally seen as more than just the ATM for the family, but as the main surgeon, Dr. Emily Harrison, and a daughter whose worth goes much beyond her finances. The most difficult teachings sometimes call for the strictest rules. Additionally, there are instances when a family can only forge a stronger bond by reaching their lowest point. They didn't ever try to take advantage of me again. Instead, they find out something more worthwhile. Real love, respect, and progress are what define a family's true value rather than money. Today, the will is mostly forgotten and rests in a drawer. Because we have all now realized that what is left behind is not the true inheritance when a life is lost. We construct it as long as we are living together.